Emma Reeves sat in her car outside the Riverside Country Club, staring at the glowing windows of the restaurant where she was supposed to meet Tyler for their second anniversary dinner. 20 minutes late. Again. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Running late, babe. Start without me. Important client meeting." Important client meeting. At 8 p.m. on a Saturday. The same excuse he'd used last week when she'd found the lipstick on his collar that definitely wasn't her shade. Emma closed her eyes, fighting back tears that had become too familiar. 23 years old, and she felt ancient with disappointment. 2 years with Tyler Morrison, 2 years of excuses, lies, and the growing certainty that she was competing with every woman who crossed his path. Her phone rang. Tyler's name flashed on the screen. "Emma, listen, I can't make it tonight. This Henderson deal is huge and—" "Where are you really, Tyler?" Silence. Then that laugh she'd once found charming and now recognized as condescending. "Don't be paranoid, babe. You know how important my career is. We can do dinner tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. You have golf with your father. Then next week. Look, I have to go." The line went dead. Emma stared at the phone, something inside her chest cracking apart. She started the car and drove aimlessly through Pittsburgh's autumn streets until she found herself in Shadyside, parked outside the Morrison family's stately colonial home. She'd been here dozens of times for family dinners, holiday gatherings, Tyler's birthday parties. Dr. Marcus Morrison had always been polite but distant, the successful cardiovascular surgeon who'd raised Tyler alone after his wife's death 10 years earlier. Emma wasn't sure why she'd come here. She had her own apartment, her own space to cry in private. But something about the warm lights in the windows, the sense of stability the house represented, drew her in. She found herself walking up the stone path to the backyard, where she could see Dr. Morrison through the French doors of his study, reading by lamplight. At 45, he was everything Tyler wasn't: contained, thoughtful, present. Silver touched his dark hair at the temples, and even in casual clothes, he carried himself with the quiet authority that came from years of making life and death decisions. Emma sank onto the garden bench under the old oak tree, finally letting the tears come. She cried for her naivety, for the 2 years she'd wasted making excuses for Tyler's behavior, for the growing certainty that love shouldn't feel this exhausting. "Emma?" She looked up to find Dr. Morrison standing in the doorway, his expression concerned. He stepped into the garden, closing the door behind him. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, wiping her eyes. "I didn't mean to intrude. I was just— Tyler and I were supposed to have dinner, but he—" Her voice broke. "He stood you up." It wasn't a question. "Important client meeting." Emma laughed bitterly. "On our anniversary." Dr. Morrison was quiet for a moment, then surprised her by sitting on the other end of the bench. "How long has this been happening? The standing up, or the lies in general?" "Both." Emma stared at her hands. "I caught him with another woman 6 months ago. He swore it was a mistake, that it would never happen again. But the late nights, the canceled plans, the way he looks at his phone when he thinks I'm not watching. And you stayed. I stayed because I thought love meant fighting for someone, even when they weren't fighting for you." Emma's voice grew stronger. "I stayed because I kept thinking if I was patient enough, understanding enough, perfect enough, he'd realize what we had was worth protecting." Dr. Morrison turned to face her fully. "Emma, can I tell you something?" She nodded. "I've been a surgeon for 20 years. I've seen people die on my table. I've had to tell families their loved ones weren't coming home. And in all that time, dealing with genuine life and death crises, you know what I've learned? What? Life is too short to spend it begging someone to see your value." His voice was gentle but firm. "Love isn't supposed to be a constant audition where you perform for someone's attention. It's supposed to be a partnership where both people choose each other every day, without question." Emma felt fresh tears threatening. "But I love him." "You love the man you hoped he could become." "But Emma—" Dr. Morrison's voice grew urgent. You can't love someone into being worthy of you. They have to choose to be worthy on their own. The words hit like a revelation. Emma stared at this man who barely knew her, but understood her situation with painful clarity. You deserve someone who shows up, Dr. Morrison continued. Someone who keeps their word, who treats you like a priority instead of an option. Someone who wouldn't dream of making you cry on your anniversary because they were somewhere else with someone else. You think that's what he's doing? With someone else? Dr. Morrison's silence was answer enough. They sat quietly as evening deepened around them. Emma felt something shifting inside her. Not healing exactly, but a recognition that the pain she'd been carrying wasn't love. It was the absence of love disguised as devotion. I should go, she said finally. Emma. Doctor. Morrison's voice stopped her. Whatever you decide about Tyler, remember what I said. You deserve better than this. As she walked back to her car, Emma felt Dr. Morrison's words echoing in her mind. For the first time in months, she wondered what it would feel like to be with someone who actually saw her value, who would never make her question her worth. What she didn't expect was that 3 weeks later, after another fight with Tyler about his latest misunderstanding with a co-worker, she would be back in Dr. Morrison's arms, not as his son's girlfriend seeking comfort, but as a woman who had finally learned the difference between love and self-destruction. But first would come the accident that would change everything. You're being dramatic, Tyler said, his hands tight on the steering wheel as they drove through the rain-slicked streets of downtown Pittsburgh. Sarah is a colleague. We were discussing the Henderson acquisition. At midnight? In your apartment? While you were in your underwear? Emma's voice was steady despite the rage building in her chest. Tyler, I saw her leaving. I saw her putting her clothes back on. You're imagining things. I'm imagining the lipstick on your sheets, the perfume that definitely wasn't mine. Tyler's jaw clenched. You know what your problem is, Emma? You're insecure. You see betrayal everywhere because you don't trust yourself to keep a man interested. The cruelty of it took her breath away. 3 weeks since her conversation with Dr. Morrison, 3 weeks of Tyler's increasingly transparent lies, and still, he somehow made it her fault. Pull over, she said quietly. What? Pull over. I want out of this car. I want out of this relationship. Don't be ridiculous. It's pouring rain. I don't care. I can't do this anymore, Tyler. I can't pretend that what you just said to me is something someone who loves me would ever say. Tyler's laugh was sharp, bitter. Oh, here we go. The martyr act. Poor Emma. Nobody appreciates her sacrifice. Stop the car. No, we're going to my apartment, and we're going to work this out like adults. Like adults? Emma's composure finally cracked. Adults don't cheat on their partners. Adults don't lie about where they've been. Adults don't gaslight their girlfriends into thinking they're crazy for believing their own eyes. I never cheated. Yes, you did. The words exploded out of her. You've been cheating on me for months. With Sarah, with that client from Henderson Industries, probably with half the women in Pittsburgh. And I've been making excuses for you because I thought that's what love looked like. Tyler's face twisted with anger. You want to know what love looks like? Love looks like putting up with your paranoia, your constant need for reassurance, your pathetic attempts to turn me into some fairy tale prince. Tyler, watch out. The red light had appeared suddenly in the rain, but Tyler was too focused on his anger to notice. He ran it at 40 miles per hour, directly into the path of a delivery truck. Emma saw the impact coming and threw her hands up instinctively. The last thing she remembered was the sound of crushing metal and Tyler screaming her name. She woke up to the steady beep of hospital machines and a pain so severe she couldn't identify where it was coming from. Everything hurt, her head, her ribs, her left leg, that felt wrong somehow. Emma? Thank God you're awake. She turned her head carefully and saw Dr. Morrison sitting beside her bed, still wearing scrubs, his face etched with exhaustion and concern. Doctor, Morrison? Her voice came out as a croak. Marcus, please. He reached for a cup of water, helping her take small sips. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck, literally. She tried to smile but winced. Tyler? Concussion, some bruises. He was released yesterday. Yesterday. How long have I been here? 3 days. You had surgery to repair a fracture in your left leg, and we had to monitor you for brain swelling from the concussion. Marcus's professional mask slipped slightly. You scared us, Emma. You scared me. I'm okay now? You're going to be okay. Full recovery, but it'll take time. Physical therapy, probably a few months before you're completely back to normal. Emma absorbed this, then asked the question she wasn't sure she wanted answered. Where is Tyler? Marcus's expression grew carefully neutral. He's been, busy with work. The Henderson deal is apparently time-sensitive. The Henderson deal. Emma closed her eyes, feeling something inside her die completely. He left me here. Emma, he left me here alone while I was unconscious, while you were operating on my leg, while I could have died, because of a business deal. Marcus reached for her hand without thinking, then seemed to realize what he was doing, but he didn't pull away. I'm sorry, he said simply. Don't apologize for your son's choices. Emma's voice was steady now, clear. I'm done making excuses for him. Good. The simple word, spoken with such quiet conviction, made Emma look at Marcus properly for the first time since waking up. His dark eyes held something she'd never seen from Tyler. Genuine concern, real presence, the kind of attention she'd been starving for without realizing it. Marcus? Yes? Thank you. For staying. For taking care of me. Where else would I be? The question was rhetorical, but it highlighted the fundamental difference between father and son. Marcus hadn't left because leaving hadn't even occurred to him. Taking care of someone he cared about was simply what you did. The nurses said you've been here every day, Emma said softly. You were unconscious and alone. That wasn't acceptable. Such a simple statement, but it encompassed everything Tyler had failed to understand about love, commitment, basic human decency. Emma felt tears threatening again, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of recognition, of finally understanding what it felt like to matter to someone. I don't have anywhere to go when I'm discharged, she said quietly. My lease is up next week and I was supposed to move in with Tyler, but obviously that's not happening anymore. Marcus was quiet for a moment. You could stay with me, just until you're recovered enough to make other arrangements. I couldn't impose. You wouldn't be imposing. I have plenty of space and honestly, Marcus paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I'd feel better knowing you were somewhere safe while you heal. Emma studied his face, looking for pity or obligation. Instead, she found something that looked like genuine caring. Okay, she said softly. If you're sure it wouldn't be too much trouble. No trouble at all. As Marcus arranged her discharge papers and prepared to take her home, to his home, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years. The anticipation of being truly cared for by someone who wouldn't make her question her worth. She had no idea that within a week, caring would transform into something much more dangerous, much more intense, and completely impossible to resist. Marcus's house felt different as a resident than it had as an occasional visitor. During the day, when Marcus was at the hospital, Emma could explore the quiet spaces, the library filled with medical journals and classic literature, the kitchen with its view of the garden where she'd cried 3 weeks earlier, the living room with its comfortable furniture and family photos that chronicled Tyler's development from adorable child to entitled young man. What struck her most was how little Tyler's presence was felt in the house. A few photos, some childhood artwork framed in Marcus's study, but none of the casual intimacy that suggested a close relationship. The house felt like Marcus's sanctuary, and Tyler seemed like a guest who visited occasionally. Emma had been there a week when her physical therapy sessions began in earnest. Marcus had converted his home gym into a makeshift rehabilitation center, complete with the equipment she'd need for her recovery. He insisted on supervising her exercises personally, despite her protests that she could manage alone. "You're not managing alone anything," he said firmly, adjusting the resistance on the leg press machine. "You're recovering from major trauma, and you're going to do it properly. I don't want to be a burden." "Emma." Marcus's voice was patient but authoritative. "You're not a burden. You're a person who needs care, and I'm qualified to provide it. Stop arguing with me." The directness of it, the way he simply took charge without making her feel helpless, was intoxicating. Tyler had always made her feel like her needs were inconvenient. Marcus made her feel like caring for her was a privilege. "Besides," Marcus added, a hint of humor in his voice, "I've been looking for an excuse to actually use this equipment. It's been gathering dust since I bought it. You don't work out? I work 16-hour days saving people's lives. When do you think I have time to work out?" Emma found herself laughing, actually laughing for the first time since the accident. Fair point. As the days passed, their routine became familiar and comfortable. Marcus would leave early for the hospital, but not before making sure Emma had everything she needed: medications, meals, books to keep her occupied. He'd return in the evenings to check on her progress, help with her exercises, and share dinner. It was during these quiet evening hours that Emma began to see Marcus not as Tyler's father or her doctor, but as Marcus, a man who was intelligent, funny in a dry way, and surprisingly easy to talk to. "Tell me about your work," she said one evening, as they shared takeout Chinese food in his kitchen. "It's not very interesting dinner conversation. Try me." So Marcus told her about his day, a complex surgery on a 6-year-old with a congenital heart defect, the moment when the child's heart began beating normally for the first time in her young life, the way her parents had cried when he'd delivered the news that the surgery was successful. "You gave that family their daughter back," Emma said softly. "I did my job. You saved a life. You gave a child the chance to grow up, fall in love, have her own family someday. That's not just a job, Marcus. That's a calling." Marcus looked at her across the small table, something shifting in his expression. "Most people don't understand that distinction. Tyler never understood why you worked such long hours. He used to complain that you cared more about your patients than your family. And what did you think?" Emma considered the question seriously. "I thought you were doing something that mattered. I thought Tyler was lucky to have a father who was passionate about healing people, who had dedicated his life to something bigger than himself. Even when it meant I wasn't always available for school plays and soccer games. Even then. Because you were teaching him that work could be meaningful, that success meant more than just making money." Emma paused. "The fact that he didn't learn that lesson isn't your fault." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "You see things very clearly, don't you?" "I see you clearly." The words hung between them, carrying more weight than Emma had intended. She felt heat rise in her cheeks, but Marcus didn't look away. Instead, his dark eyes held hers with an intensity that made her pulse race. "Emma," he began, then stopped, seeming to think better of whatever he'd been about to say. "What?" "Nothing. I should let you rest." But he didn't move to clear the dinner dishes, and Emma didn't make any motion to leave the table. They sat in the warm kitchen light, the air thick with unspoken awareness of each other. It was the next evening that everything changed. Emma had been struggling with her exercises, frustrated by her body's slow progress, when she broke down completely. Marcus found her sobbing on the living room floor, her injured leg throbbing, her spirit crushed by the limitations that seemed insurmountable. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "What's wrong?" "I can't do it," Emma cried. "I can't even walk normally. I can't drive. I can't work. I can't take care of myself. I'm completely useless." "You're not useless. You're healing. Tyler was right about me. I am pathetic. I am needy and weak and... Stop. Marcus's voice was sharp, commanding. Don't you ever repeat his poison to yourself. Ever. He pulled her gently into his arms, and Emma let herself collapse against his chest, breathing in the scent of his cologne mixed with the faint antiseptic smell that always clung to his clothes. You are not weak, Marcus said firmly, his arms tightening around her. You survived a car accident that could have killed you. You're rebuilding your strength from the ground up. You have the courage to end a relationship that was destroying you. None of that is weak, Emma. None of it. I feel weak. Then let me be strong enough for both of us. Emma pulled back to look at him, and something in his expression made her breath catch. His dark eyes held warmth, tenderness, and something deeper that made her pulse race. Marcus, she whispered. I know this is complicated, he said softly. I know I'm the last person you should... She kissed him. It was soft, tentative, a question more than a statement. But when Marcus kissed her back, really kissed her, with a passion and tenderness she'd never experienced, Emma understood what she'd been missing her entire adult life. This was what it felt like to be kissed by a man who wanted her completely, who wasn't thinking about anyone else or anything else, who was completely present in the moment with her. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. We shouldn't, Marcus began. Why not? Because you're vulnerable, because you're recovering, because I'm supposed to be taking care of you. You are taking care of me, better than anyone ever has. Emma's voice grew stronger. Marcus, what I feel for you isn't gratitude or dependency. It's not rebound from Tyler or confusion from the accident. It's real. Emma, I'm a grown woman making a clear-headed choice about what I want. And what I want is you. Marcus stared at her, something like wonder crossing his face. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. When he kissed her again, it was with all the restraint abandoned, all the careful boundaries dissolved. Emma had never been kissed with such intensity, such focused desire. Tyler's kisses had always felt performative, like he was checking an item off a list. Marcus kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Upstairs, she whispered against his mouth. Emma, if we do this, we're doing this. We're absolutely doing this. As Marcus carried her up the stairs, careful of her injured leg but determined in his movements, Emma felt alive in a way she'd never experienced. This wasn't the desperate, needy passion she'd felt for Tyler, always tinged with insecurity and the fear of loss. This was desire paired with safety, passion combined with genuine caring. This was what it felt like to be wanted by someone who actually saw her, valued her, chose her completely. And when Marcus laid her down on his bed and began loving her with the same focused intensity he brought to everything else in his life, Emma finally understood what all those songs and movies had been talking about. Love wasn't supposed to hurt. It was supposed to feel like this, like coming home. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the feeling of strong arms wrapped around her. For a moment she was disoriented, her mind struggling to place where she was and why she felt so utterly content. Then Marcus shifted behind her, pressing a soft kiss to her bare shoulder, and the night came flooding back in vivid, breathtaking detail. Good morning, he murmured against her skin, his voice rough with sleep. Emma turned in his arms to face him, struck by how different he looked in the morning light. Younger somehow, more relaxed, his dark hair mussed and his eyes warm with satisfaction. Good morning, she replied, suddenly shy despite everything they'd shared. Any regrets? The question was asked lightly, but Emma could see the uncertainty underneath. She reached up to trace the line of his jaw, marveling at the intimacy of the gesture. Only one, she said. Marcus's expression grew guarded. What's that? That we waited this long. His smile was radiant, transforming his entire face. Really? Really? Marcus, Last night was... Emma searched for words that could encompass the revelation of finally understanding what physical intimacy was supposed to feel like. I didn't know it could be like that. I didn't know I could feel like that. Marcus pulled her closer, his expression growing serious. Emma, I need you to understand something. What happened between us? It wasn't just physical for me. I didn't take advantage of your vulnerability or your gratitude. I know that. Do you? Because I've been fighting these feelings for weeks, telling myself I was imagining the connection between us, that it was inappropriate given the circumstances. Marcus, Emma's voice was gentle but firm. I kissed you first. I made the choice to be here, in your bed, completely sober and clear-headed about what I wanted. And what did you want? You. All of you. Not as Tyler's father, not as my doctor, not as someone helping me recover. Just you, Marcus. The man who sits with me during dinner and listens to my thoughts like they matter. The man who makes me feel safe and valued and seen. Marcus's kiss was soft, reverent, like a thank you and a promise combined. I love you, he said simply. The words should have terrified Emma. She'd heard them from Tyler dozens of times, usually when he was trying to excuse some behavior or manipulate her into forgiveness. But from Marcus, they felt like truth, like something solid she could build a life on. I love you too, she replied, and meant it with every fiber of her being. They made love again in the morning light, slowly and thoroughly, and Emma discovered that the night before hadn't been a fluke. Marcus touched her like she was precious, like every response mattered, like bringing her pleasure was the most important thing in the world. With Tyler, sex had always felt like something she participated in rather than enjoyed, something that was ultimately about his satisfaction with her pleasure as an afterthought. With Marcus, she felt like an equal partner in something beautiful and mutual. I could stay in this bed forever, Emma murmured as they lay tangled together afterward. Unfortunately, I have surgery in 2 hours, Marcus replied with genuine regret. Go save lives. I'll be here when you get back. Promise? Promise. As Marcus showered and prepared for work, Emma watched him move through his routine with the same quiet competence he brought to everything. Even getting dressed was done with purpose, efficiency, the movements of a man who knew his worth and his place in the world. Tyler had always been frantic in the mornings, rushing, forgetting things, constantly running late because he'd stayed up too late gaming or drinking. Marcus was calm, prepared, present. There's food in the refrigerator, Marcus said, adjusting his tie. Your physical therapy appointment is at 2. I'll be home by 4 to drive you. I can take a cab. You'll ride with me. I want to hear how the session goes. The casual assumption that he'd be part of her recovery, that her progress mattered to him, made Emma's chest warm with affection. Marcus? Yes. Thank you. For everything. He kissed her goodbye, a kiss that was both casual and intimate, the kind of kiss that suggested this was the beginning of many mornings, many goodbyes, many reasons to come home to each other. After he left, Emma wandered through the house with new eyes. This was no longer the place where she was recovering from her injuries and her broken relationship. This was the place where she discovered what love actually felt like. She was making coffee when her phone rang. Tyler's name appeared on the screen, and for the first time since the accident, Emma felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no complicated mix of emotions. Just a mild irritation at having her morning interrupted. Hello, Tyler. Emma. Finally. I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been recovering from the car accident you caused. That's not fair. The light changed suddenly. Save it, Tyler. What do you want? I want to see you. I want to explain about Sarah, about everything. The Henderson deal fell through, and I realize I've been prioritizing all the wrong things. You're right about that. So we can work this out. I can come get you from wherever you're staying and we can talk. No. The word came out with such finality that it surprised even Emma. What do you mean, no? I mean no, Tyler. We can't work this out. We're done. We've been done since you left me unconscious in the hospital to pursue a business deal. That's not... I had responsibilities. You had a girlfriend who almost died, and you chose your responsibilities over being there when she woke up scared and in pain. That tells me everything I need to know about your priorities. Emma, you're being dramatic. I'm being clear. Don't call me again, Tyler. Don't text me. Don't show up wherever you think I'm staying. We're over, and I'm moving on with my life. She hung up before he could respond and immediately blocked his number. The conversation that would have reduced her to tears a month ago had felt like nothing more than closing a book she'd already finished reading. Emma spent the rest of the morning reading in Marcus's study, surrounded by his books and the quiet evidence of a life lived with purpose and intention. When he texted her during his lunch break, just a simple, "How are you feeling today?" she found herself smiling at the phone like a teenager with her first crush. But this wasn't a crush. This was love, real and adult and complicated and absolutely worth fighting for. That evening, as they shared dinner and talked about their days, Emma felt a contentment she'd never experienced. This was what partnership looked like. Two people genuinely interested in each other's lives, supporting each other's goals, finding joy in simple moments of connection. "I have something to tell you," Emma said as they cleaned up the dishes together. "What's that?" "Tyler called today." Marcus went very still. What did he want? To get back together, to explain about his latest affair, to convince me that he's learned from his mistakes. And I told him we were done. Completely done. I blocked his number. Marcus set down the plate he'd been drying and turned to face her fully. "How do you feel about that?" "Free. For the first time in 2 years, completely free." Emma moved closer to him. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. What I feel for you isn't rebound or rebellion against Tyler. You're not some older man I'm using to get back at my ex-boyfriend. Emma, you're the first man who's ever made me feel truly valued. The first man whose priorities make sense to me, whose character I actually respect. The first man I've ever loved, who I'm absolutely certain loves me back." Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. "I do love you back," he said firmly. "Completely, irrevocably. In ways that scare the hell out of me because I never expected to feel this way about anyone again. Again. I loved Tyler's mother. But what I feel for you is different, deeper, more conscious. I choose you every moment, Emma. Not because I have to, but because I can't imagine choosing anyone else." They made love again that night, and Emma understood that this was her new normal. Being cherished, being desired, being loved by a man who showed up consistently and completely. She also understood that their happiness existed in a bubble that would eventually be tested by the outside world. Tyler would find out eventually. There would be conversations to have, judgments to face, complications to navigate. But as Marcus held her close and whispered promises against her skin, Emma knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because this love, this partnership, this sense of being completely known and accepted, was worth fighting for. Even if the fight would be harder than either of them imagined. 2 months after the night that changed everything, Emma had settled into a routine that felt like the life she'd always been meant to live. Her physical recovery was nearly complete. Her relationship with Marcus had deepened into something that felt both passionate and stable, and she'd even started working part-time as a research assistant for one of Marcus's colleagues at the hospital. They were careful in public. No displays of affection, no suggestion that their relationship was anything more than doctor and recovering patient. But in the privacy of Marcus's home, they were building something beautiful and sustainable. Emma was working in the garden when she heard a car door slam in the driveway. She looked up to see Tyler striding toward the backyard, his face flushed with anger and something that looked like desperation. "Tyler." She stood up, brushing dirt from her gardening gloves. What are you doing here? Looking for you. You blocked my number. You moved out of your apartment without leaving a forwarding address. What the hell, Emma? I told you we were done. I meant it. No, you didn't. You were hurt. You were angry. But people don't just throw away 2 years over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Emma's voice rose. Tyler, you were cheating on me, repeatedly. And when I was in the hospital, possibly dying, you chose a business deal over being there when I woke up. I've been trying to make that right. There is no making that right. There's no coming back from that level of selfishness. Tyler moved closer, and Emma noticed he looked thinner, more haggard than when she'd last seen him. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, the appearance of a man who wasn't sleeping well. Emma, please. I know I screwed up, but I love you. I've realized what I lost, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. It's too late. No, it's not. We can go to counseling. We can take a vacation. We can start over. Tyler, I don't love you anymore. The words hit him like a physical blow. He stepped back, his face cycling through disbelief, hurt, and finally anger. That's impossible. You don't just stop loving someone. You do when you realize you were never actually loved in the first place. When you finally understand the difference between being with someone who sees you as an accessory and being with someone who sees you as a partner. Someone who sees you as a partner? Tyler's voice grew sharp. Emma, what the hell are you talking about? Who are you seeing? Emma felt her pulse spike. She hadn't intended to reveal that there was someone else, but Tyler had always been perceptive when it came to threats to his territory. That's none of your business. It is my business if some guy took advantage of you while you were vulnerable. No one took advantage of me. I made a choice, as an adult, about what I wanted for my life. And what you wanted was some rebound guy who told you what you wanted to hear while you were recovering from the accident I was in too, by the way. The accident you caused, Emma corrected. And this isn't some rebound, Tyler. This is real. This is what love actually looks like. Tyler's eyes narrowed. Who is he? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Some guy is screwing my girlfriend. I'm not your girlfriend anymore. I haven't been your girlfriend since the moment you walked out of that hospital room to chase money instead of making sure I was okay. Emma, just tell me who it is. I deserve to know who you're. You don't deserve anything from me. The hell I don't. 2 years, Emma. 2 years of my life invested in this relationship. Invested? Emma's voice grew dangerous. Is that what you call it? Investment? Like I was some stock you were hoping would pay dividends? That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. That's exactly what you meant. Because you've never seen me as a person, Tyler. You've seen me as an acquisition. Something pretty to have on your arm at work functions. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions about where you spent your nights. Tyler's face darkened. That's not true. It is true. And you know what? I'm grateful for the accident. Because it showed me who you really are when things get difficult. And it introduced me to someone who actually knows how to love a woman. Who is he? Tyler demanded, stepping closer. Who the hell is he, Emma? Before she could answer, the French doors opened and Marcus stepped onto the patio, home early from his rounds. He took in the scene immediately. Emma's defensive posture, Tyler's aggressive stance, the tension crackling between them. Tyler, Marcus said calmly. I didn't expect to see you here. Dad. Tyler's voice was cold. I came to talk to Emma about getting back together. She's been staying here. She's been recovering here, yes. For 2 months? For as long as she needs. Tyler looked between his father and Emma, and something in their body language, the way Marcus positioned himself slightly in front of Emma, the way she moved closer to his side, made his eyes narrow. Emma, Tyler said slowly, who did you say you were seeing? Emma felt Marcus tense beside her. This was the moment she'd been dreading, but also the moment that would force everything into the open. Tyler, It's him, isn't it? Tyler's voice was deadly quiet. It's my father. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus stepped forward slightly, his posture protective but not apologetic. Tyler. Don't. Tyler held up a hand, his face cycling through shock, rage, and something that looked like betrayal. Don't say anything, Dad. Not yet. He turned to Emma, his expression ugly. How long? Tyler, it's not what you think. How long have you been fucking my father? Don't talk to her like that, Marcus said sharply, his voice carrying the authority that came from years of commanding operating rooms. I'll talk to her however I want. She was my girlfriend. She was your girlfriend, Marcus corrected, whom you cheated on repeatedly and abandoned in a hospital bed after an accident you caused. So you thought you'd swoop in and play hero? Christ, Dad, she's 23 years old. She's an adult who makes her own decisions. She's a kid who was vulnerable after her accident, and you took advantage. I didn't take advantage of anyone, Emma interrupted, her voice strong despite the tremor in her hands. Tyler, what Marcus and I have is real. It's honest. It's everything you never gave me. Everything I never... Tyler laughed bitterly. Emma, you're deluding yourself. He's using you to get back at me for something, or he's having a midlife crisis, or maybe, Emma said quietly, he's just a better man than you are. The words hit Tyler like a slap. His face went white, then flushed red with anger. A better man, Emma. He's old enough to be your father, and mature enough to treat me like I matter, unlike his son. You're pathetic, Tyler spat. Both of you. Dad, she's going to get bored with you the minute someone her own age pays attention to her. And Emma, you're so desperate for approval that you're screwing a man twice your age because he paid you some attention when you were hurt. That's enough. Marcus's voice was deadly quiet, but there was something in it that made Tyler take a step back. You will not speak to Emma that way. Ever. Or what, Dad? You'll choose your girlfriend over your son. I'll choose the woman I love over a son who apparently learned nothing about respect or decency in 24 years. The admission hung in the air like a bomb. Marcus had just declared his love for Emma in front of Tyler, had just chosen her over his relationship with his son. You love her, Tyler repeated slowly. You actually think you love her. I don't think anything. I know. This is insane. She's using you, Dad. Can't you see that? She's young and broke and you're successful and stable. She's not using me, Marcus said firmly. She's loving me. Something you never learned how to do with anyone. Tyler stared at his father with an expression Emma had never seen before. Pure hatred, mixed with something that might have been grief. Fine, he said finally. Fine. You want to throw away our relationship for some girl who was with me first? Do it. But don't come crying to me when she breaks your heart. Tyler, Emma began. No, you've made your choice. Both of you have. Tyler's voice grew stronger, more venomous. Dad, I hope she's worth losing your son over. And Emma, I hope you realize what you're signing up for. He's a workaholic who puts his patients before everything else. He destroyed his marriage because he couldn't balance work and family. He'll do the same thing to you. Your mother died of cancer, Marcus said quietly. I didn't destroy our marriage. I fought to save her life until the very end. And ignored me in the process. But I guess Emma doesn't care about that since she never plans on having your kids anyway. The cruelty of it took Emma's breath away. Tyler was weaponizing Marcus's grief over his wife, his guilt over the necessary compromises of raising a child alone while saving lives. Tyler, stop, Emma said firmly. You're hurt. I understand that. But I'm not hurt, Tyler cut her off. I'm disgusted with both of you. Emma, you were mine. We had a relationship. We had plans. And the minute things got difficult, you ran to the first man who showed you attention. You cheated on me. I made mistakes, but I didn't betray family. Neither did I, Emma shot back. I fell in love with a man who treats me like I'm precious instead of convenient. A man who shows up when he says he will, who doesn't lie to me, who makes me feel safe and valued and who's old enough to be your father. Age is just a number when everything else is right, Emma said firmly. Marcus and I connect on every level, intellectually, emotionally, physically. We want the same things. We share the same values. We make each other better people. You've known him for 3 months. I've known him for 3 months, and he's shown me more genuine love and respect than you did in 2 years. Tyler looked between them one more time, his expression settling into cold finality. This isn't over, he said quietly. Dad, you're throwing away everything we had for a woman who's going to leave you the minute she finds someone more age-appropriate. And Emma? You're going to realize eventually that what you think is love is just daddy issues and desperation. He walked away without another word, leaving Emma and Marcus standing together in the garden where this had all began. Are you okay? Marcus asked softly, pulling Emma into his arms. I'm okay. Are you? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I knew this would happen eventually. I just hoped we'd have more time before we had to face it. Do you regret it? Standing up to him? Choosing me? Marcus pulled back to look at her face, his dark eyes serious but warm. Emma, I've made a lot of difficult decisions in my life. I've had to tell parents their children wouldn't survive surgery. I've had to make split-second choices that meant the difference between life and death. But choosing you, that's the easiest decision I've ever made, even if it means losing Tyler. I lost Tyler years ago when he decided that getting what he wanted mattered more than becoming the kind of man worth respecting. All I did today was stop pretending otherwise. They held each other in the afternoon sunlight, both understanding that their relationship had just weathered its first major test. Tyler would be back. This confrontation was just the beginning of what would likely be a long and painful process of establishing their independence from his anger and resentment. But they had chosen each other openly and completely in front of the person who most threatened their happiness. They had refused to be ashamed or apologetic about their love. And for now, that felt like victory enough. The weeks following Tyler's confrontation brought a kind of peace Emma hadn't expected. She'd anticipated guilt, second-guessing, maybe even Tyler's attempts to sabotage their relationship. Instead, she found a deep sense of relief that the secrecy was over, and their love was no longer something they had to hide. Marcus, however, was struggling more than he let on. Emma found him in his study late one evening, staring at a framed photo of Tyler's high school graduation, a younger version of father and son, both smiling, both looking genuinely happy to be together. Second thoughts? She asked gently, settling beside him on the leather couch. Regrets about the years when things were good between us, Marcus replied honestly. He wasn't always like this, Emma. When he was younger, before his mother died, he was a sweet kid. Curious, affectionate, excited about everything. What changed? I did. After Sarah died, I threw myself into work because it was easier than facing the grief at home. Tyler needed his father, but I gave him a provider instead. I taught him that emotional distance was strength, that work came before everything else. Emma took his hand, intertwining their fingers. You were dealing with losing the love of your life while trying to raise a child alone. You did the best you could with what you had. Did I? Because looking at the man Tyler became, I wonder if I failed him completely. Marcus, Tyler is 24 years old. At some point, his choices become his own responsibility. You didn't teach him to cheat or lie or treat people like possessions. Those are choices he made. But maybe if I'd been more present, maybe if you'd been more present, he would have learned to expect the world to revolve around him even more than he already does. Emma's voice was gentle but firm. You were a single father working as a surgeon, saving lives while trying to raise a child. That's not failure, Marcus. That's heroic. Marcus pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. I love you for seeing the best in me, but I can't help feeling like I'm losing my son for a woman who might what? Leave you? Emma pulled back to look at him seriously. Marcus, do you truly think that's what this is for me? Some temporary infatuation that I'll outgrow? You're 23, Emma. Your whole life is ahead of you. Kids, career, travel. And I want all of that with you. I want to build a practice with you, maybe specialize in pediatric care. I want to travel with you to medical conferences and vacation destinations and anywhere else we can explore together. And someday, when we're both ready, I want to have your children. Marcus's eyes widened. Children? Did you think I hadn't considered that? Did you think I was planning to waste your time and mine on something casual? Emma's voice grew stronger. Marcus, I love you. Completely. Permanently. The way people love each other when they're planning to build a life together. Not the way people love each other when they're passing time. Even knowing what it would mean? The judgment, the whispers, the assumptions people will make? Especially knowing that. Because what we have is worth fighting for. Marcus kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, and Emma felt the last of his doubts dissolving. This was their choice, their life, their love story, and they would write it on their own terms. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Emma was making coffee when the doorbell rang, and she opened it to find a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying brown hair. You must be Emma, the woman said with a warm smile. I'm Dr. Helen Cross. I worked with Marcus when he was a resident, and we've been friends for 20 years. Dr. Cross, of course. Marcus has mentioned you. He's at the hospital. Actually, I came to see you. Emma felt a flutter of nervousness. Would you like to come in? As they sat in Marcus's living room with coffee and pastries, Dr. Cross studied Emma with the same careful attention Marcus brought to his patients. Marcus is one of the finest men I know, she said finally. Brilliant surgeon, devoted father, loyal friend. He's also been alone for 10 years, convinced he'd never find love again. And in the past few months I've watched him become someone I haven't seen since before Sarah died. Happy, relaxed, talking about the future instead of just surviving each day. Emma felt warmth spread through her chest. He makes me happy too. I can see that. But I have to ask, and please forgive the directness. Are you prepared for what loving Marcus means? I'm not sure I understand. Marcus doesn't love casually, Emma. When he commits to someone, it's completely and forever. He's also a man whose work will always be demanding, whose patience will sometimes come before dinner plans or vacations. Can you live with that? Emma considered the question seriously. Dr. Cross, I fell in love with Marcus, knowing exactly who he is. I love that he's dedicated to saving lives. I love that he takes his responsibilities seriously. I don't want him to change or compromise who he is for me. And the age difference? The complications with Tyler? The age difference doesn't matter when everything else is right. And Tyler? Emma's voice grew sad. Tyler is angry right now, and I understand that. But Marcus and I aren't responsible for managing his emotions about our relationship. Dr. Cross was quiet for a moment, then smiled. You know, Sarah used to say something similar about Marcus's work schedule. She said she fell in love with his dedication, not despite it. Did you know her well? Very well. She was a remarkable woman. Strong, intelligent, completely devoted to Marcus and Tyler. I think she'd approve of you. The words brought tears to Emma's eyes. Really? Really? Sarah wanted Marcus to be happy above all else. She made him promise before she died that he wouldn't spend the rest of his life alone. I think she'd be thrilled that he found someone who loves him so completely. That evening, Emma told Marcus about Dr. O. Cross's visit, about her blessing, and her stories about Sarah. She's right, you know, Marcus said as they lay in bed together. Sarah did make me promise not to be alone forever, but I never thought I'd find someone I could love the way I loved her. And now? Now I know that love doesn't diminish when you find it again. It multiplies. I love Sarah's memory, and I love our future. Both can be true. Emma curled closer to him, feeling the solid warmth of his chest against her cheek. I love you, Marcus. Today, tomorrow, and for as long as you'll have me. Then I guess that means forever. Outside, Pittsburgh's lights twinkled in the distance, and Emma felt the deep contentment that came from being exactly where she belonged. They'd faced Tyler's anger, society's judgment, and their own doubts about the complications of their love, and they'd chosen each other anyway. That, Emma thought, as sleep claimed her in Marcus's arms, was what real love looked like. Not the absence of obstacles, but the commitment to overcome them together. The wedding was small, elegant, and perfect. Emma stood in the garden where she'd first cried over Tyler's betrayal, now transformed with white flowers and fairy lights, wearing a simple silk dress that Marcus had chosen because he said it made her eyes shine. Dr. Cross officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. The guest list was intentionally small: Emma's close friends, Marcus's colleagues, a few neighbors who had become like family over the past 2 years. Tyler was notably absent. He'd made his position clear through a series of increasingly bitter text messages that Marcus had finally stopped reading. Some wounds, they'd learned, people chose not to let heal. Do you, Marcus, take Emma to be your wife, to love and cherish, in sickness and health, for better or worse, for as long as you both shall live? I do. Marcus's voice was strong, certain, his dark eyes never leaving Emma's face. Do you, Emma, take Marcus to be your husband, to love and cherish, in sickness and health, for better or worse, for as long as you both shall live? I do. Emma's voice was clear, joyful, full of the confidence that came from 2 years of proving that their love could withstand anything. By the power vested in me by the state of Pennsylvania and the internet, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Marcus, you may kiss your bride. The kiss was soft, reverent, and full of promise. As their small gathering erupted in applause, Emma felt the deep satisfaction of knowing she was exactly where she belonged. Later, during the reception in Marcus's, their backyard, Dr. Cross raised a toast. To Emma and Marcus, she said, her voice carrying across the gathered friends and family, who proved that love doesn't follow a schedule, doesn't care about what other people think, and sometimes arrives exactly when you need it most, even if it's not when you expected it. To love that heals, Marcus added, his arm tightening around Emma's waist. To love that chooses, Emma replied, looking into her husband's eyes. As the evening wound down and their guests departed, Emma and Marcus stood together in their garden, still in their wedding clothes, surrounded by the evidence of a celebration of their choice to build a life together. Any regrets? Marcus asked, echoing the question that had become their private tradition. Only one, Emma replied with a smile. What's that? That it took a car accident and a broken heart to bring us together. I wish I'd been brave enough to see what was right in front of me sooner. Maybe we needed the journey. Maybe we both had to go through pain to appreciate what we found with each other. Emma thought about the young woman who'd cried on this very bench 2 years ago, heartbroken over a man who'd never deserved her tears. That woman had been so desperate for love she'd accepted crumbs and called it a feast. Now she understood the difference between being wanted and being valued, between being someone's option and being someone's choice, between love that demanded she shrink herself and love that encouraged her to grow. I love you, Dr. Morrison, she said, using her new name for the first time. I love you too, Mrs. Morrison, forever and always. As they walked into their home together, husband and wife, partners in every sense of the word, Emma reflected on the strange twists of fate that had brought them together. She'd thought she was in love with the son, but she'd found her soulmate in the father. She'd thought age was a barrier to real love, but she discovered that emotional maturity mattered more than chronological age. She'd thought that love meant accepting whatever you were offered, but she'd learned that real love meant being with someone who offered everything freely. Their story had begun with heartbreak and accident, with complications and judgment and the kind of obstacles that would have destroyed a weaker connection. But what they'd built together was stronger than circumstances, deeper than physical attraction, more lasting than passion. They'd built a partnership based on respect, understanding, shared values, and the daily choice to prioritize each other's happiness. And if that wasn't a fairy tale ending, it was something better. A real love story, built by two people who'd learned that the best relationships aren't perfect, but chosen. Every day deliberately, with full knowledge of each other's flaws and the determination to love anyway. Sometimes the wrong choice led you exactly where you needed to be. Sometimes love finds you in the most unexpected places, with the most unexpected person, at exactly the moment you're ready to receive it. Emma and Marcus's story reminds us that real love isn't about age or circumstances. It's about finding someone who sees your value, chooses you completely, and builds a life with you based on mutual respect and genuine partnership. What did you think of their unconventional love story? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories about love, second chances, and the courage to follow your heart, no matter where it leads.